Hello everybody, my name is TJ Scott and I'm an estate planning attorney with the Law Office of Timothy J. Scott. I can be found online at tjslawoffice.com. And I want to talk about something today. I want to talk about your digital assets. And I recently had a client come to me and say, how do I name a digital executor for my digital assets for after I'm gone? And I thought it was a fantastic question. One question that may be coming to your mind is, do I have digital assets? What digital assets do I have and how do I share those with the people who come after me to make sure that they have access? Well, digital assets are all kinds of things. You probably are thinking of things like NFTs, or maybe digital currency, things like Bitcoin. NFTs are non-fungible tokens. They include things like the images of monkeys, the what is it called? The ape society. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but that's certainly a digital asset. But digital assets include many other things beyond that. They include things like frequent flyer miles or credit card reward points. How do people get access to those after you've passed away? They include things like your email or your website domains that you own. They include things like cloud storage if you use iCloud or Dropbox or the Google Cloud to keep your files. How do people get access to those when you're gone? They include things like your photos and videos that you store online. So if you're using Google Photos or if you're using iCloud to store photos or if you're using Shutterfly, how do people get access to your photos and videos, those things that could be very important for them to access and very sentimental for them? Or social media accounts, how do people get access to your Facebook or your Twitter, your Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube? Maybe they can see the content still, but they can't actually access it and deal with the content, including locking it down and protecting it and making sure that it's not subject to a hacking attempt or a break-in. And then things like apps. Maybe you have money in Venmo or maybe you have money in PayPal and somebody wants to get access to those. What about other apps, things like Robinhood or Webull that allow you to trade stocks and trade funds online? And how do people access those after you're gone? Well, we can plan for all of those access in a number of ways. Here in Minnesota, we have what's called the RUFADA, which is the Revised Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act. And that act that we have allows us to plan for our digital assets in our estate planning documents. So that's one thing that I make sure to do for my clients is that I draft and include provisions in their estate planning documents about who can access their assets. I include that in their trust if they have a trust. I include it in their will. I include it in their power of attorney to make sure that it's clear that people have access to those digital assets. The problem with just including access in those documents is that it may require documentation from the court in order to actually practically gain access to those assets. And that might require something like letters testamentary or letters of administration from the probate court. It can be administratively burdensome to have to go to the court and request those documents, and it can take a lot of time. It can cost a lot of money if you have to hire an attorney to represent you and do that. So including those provisions in your estate planning documents is kind of a foundational level of making sure that your digital assets are protected. Beyond that, you can look and see if the service itself actually allows some way to provide access to someone, to a third party after you're gone. And I know that Google allows this in the form of what they call an inactive account manager, that somebody can step into your shoes and deal with and manage your accounts. I know Facebook also has some excellent options for this in what's called a legacy contact, somebody who can step into your shoes and deal with your profile and actually lock it down to make sure that people aren't making changes to the profile and able to access it after you're gone. Another recommendation that I have is using a third-party tool, and one that I especially want to mention here, although there are a number that I'm going to give you. One that I especially want to mention is a password manager called LastPass. And I want to mention that because it's what I use to make sure that my username and passwords and all of my digital assets, all of my accounts, are accessible after I'm gone. you can actually include in your LastPass, you don't have to give access immediately, but you can include what's called emergency access in the software, and that emergency access allows somebody that you name to request access to your usernames, to your passwords, to all of your accounts. And as long as you don't block them from having that access for a specific period of time, I think by default it's something like 48 hours or 2 days. If you don't block them from having access for those 48 hours, then when that time period runs, they gain access to everything. And in LastPass, you can include notes. You can include secure notes that have very sensitive information if you wish. You can include things like username and passwords for your different apps on your phone, or for your different online accounts and that kind of thing. And having somebody who can step into your shoes and access all of those things after a certain waiting period is a fantastic thing that your family will be very happy to have if you become either incapacitated or after you've passed away, making sure that they can have access to all the sentimental things as well as all of the things of great value, things like PayPal and Webull and maybe a Bitcoin wallet, something like that, that you really need them to have access to. Other third-party tools that you might explore are things like 1Password. Directive Communication Systems is another service out there. And then another one that I especially want to mention is My Life and Wishes. And that's really a fantastic tool that I encourage you to Google and take a look at. You can include a lot of things in that My Life and Wishes, including PDFs of your documents. I understand that you're even going to be able to include some video, some brief video here in the near future as well, which is a fantastic thing to be able to give access, to give your loved ones access to after you're gone. So again, my name is TJ Scott. I'm an estate planning attorney with the Law Office of Timothy J. Scott, and I can be found online at tjslawoffice.com.